I mean, I have lived for many decades with my girlfriend who I would have possibly had to not be as nice to in a certain way because of being broke and always desperate about money on the one hand. On the other hand, getting to be 40 years old and thinking, gee, this is too horrible. I can't go on like this as a playwright. I have to get a job writing advertising copy or whatever might be a possible job. Of course, by that time, harder to get the job because they're going to look at you and say, you're 40, you're so old, you can't, how could we hire you? Kids won't understand you. Now there is an option today that didn't really exist for me. There are a lot of smart playwrights who write for TV, and they're smart shows. I mean, when I was in my 20s, let's say, there were not so many smart shows on TV, and that was not an option. It's really tough. I mean, I think if you are willing to not have strong material desires and needs, it can work, you know. And I know people, obviously, I know directors, actors, and writers who still live in a non-bourgeois way, a humble way, and a simple way, and mostly they're fine, but they've made that choice, and they're willing to live with it, and they're not bitter about it. I mean, my brother is a composer of classical music. He teaches at a little college in Vermont, if you've heard of that small state. He lives very humbly. I mean, you know, the forks that he eats with are thin. The glasses that he drinks out of are not terribly nice. I don't know what to say. He lives more simply than I do. Also more predictably. I mean, I've definitely had many years when I've had no money and the acting thing didn't go well, you know. But I live, you know, according to the way I feel I should, which is not a good plan. I'll go to the restaurant and figure that next year I'll be able to pay for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I was wondering how it is to be working on Young Sheldon, and how are you mentoring the little boy on the show?
How am I
mentoring?
Mentoring him? It's not working that way.
Is he mentoring you?
Well, yes, I mean, in the sense that he's, you know, he's a brilliant actor, and I'm trying to act in a scene with him and be as good as he is. And as I don't know, he's not like that character at all. So, I mean, not remotely. So he's both an incredible actor in the sense of transforming and completely natural. So how do you do that? So yes, he's mentoring me. I love being on that show. it's a, I feel, very smart and decent show. Very, very, very smartly written and wonderfully acted. And in case you don't, this is a TV show, Young Sheldon. It's on CBS on once a week. And yeah, I'm very, very lucky to have been given that job. And it's really not, it's, you know, in the, I mean, I feel our country is I'm sorry to upset anybody, taken over by the evil side, really. You know, I value anything that still expresses a spark of human decency, and you know, it's remarkable that in the America of Trump, Young Sheldon is incredibly popular, that people are watching a show about this very un-macho kid who is really strange and is like, you know, one of those alien figures that the Trump world would like to get rid of, really. And I play a sort of old version of him, if you didn't notice that already. And it's pretty, I'm very happy to be doing it.
Thank you.
I do.
Hey, boss. Hey, my name's Ryan. You have played a ton of characters. Are there any you look back and say, man, I wish I would have just done that a little bit differently?
Well, there's certainly scenes that make me wince, where I think, you know, I mean, for me, the only part of acting that I actually can appreciate, either in other people or me, in a way, is it believable? Or is it seem fake? Yeah, sometimes I've seen myself in certain scenes and I've felt disheartened and depressed and thought, well, it's just not believable. I don't think a person would really act like that. Sometimes an editor can make you seem like a bad actor even when you weren't. Because the other guy says, well, Bob, I'm afraid there was bad news today. And then the camera, I mean, the film cuts to you, and it's really up to the editor whether he picks the shot that you actually, that you meant to respond to what the first guy said. And you sort of say, oh gosh, bad news, I'm so sorry. Or the editor is perfectly free to pick a different shot where you sort of say, ha 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 ha! And you know, it doesn't look, it may not look believable. It may look stupid or like you're a terrible actor. You have no control over it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I've watched a whole movie and thought I should have done the whole thing differently. Maybe once or twice I have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, boss. Hi. Hello, my name is Christian. Early on you mentioned that you translated a play, which already seems like a big accomplishment. Could you tell us about that and your language experience?
And my
language experience.
Oh, well, when I was, I've studied in school, I studied a certain amount of Latin. And I also went to the kind of school where they try to boost your self-esteem and make you feel you can do anything. That was the kind of schools that I went to. So between the Latin and the self-esteem, I have a kind of arrogance about languages in particular. I taught Latin when I was a school teacher, even though I was not qualified. And I translated the play I mentioned from the Italian, which it was not an enormously difficult play. It was a play called The Mandrake by Machiavelli, which is Machiavelli fans.
Watch out for that one.
It's pretty simple. It doesn't have long passages of magical realism. It's a kind of, will you meet me on the corner next Tuesday at 3 o'clock? Yes, I will. Great, let's meet there. It's pretty simple. Then I translated the Threepenny Opera from German. And then I translated The Master Builder of Ibsen, a Norwegian playwright, and we made a movie of it, which I highly recommend. There are only about 2.5 copies in existence, but it's part of the Criterion collection. If you know what that is, A Master Builder. In that one, I do know a little German, so that was particularly arrogant because Norwegian is not really German or English, but they have a lot of similar words in there. Anyway, with all three of them, I got, certainly with the Norwegian one, I got someone who really knew Norwegian to write into the Norwegian text some English synonyms for the words, and then I talked through the whole thing with her, and so she said, well, in Norwegian there's a word for home, hjem, and then there's house, huset, or something of that kind. And so, and she said, well, the word home has certain associations, house has certain associations. So then, but with all three of them, when I finished my so-called translation, sort of so-called finished them, I gave them to people who really knew the languages, and I actually paid people to compare line by line. My translations may have been odd in some sentences, but did I understand what the original author meant? So did I misunderstand a word so that I'm saying he walked through the dog rather than he walked through the door? Did I know what the original author meant? And so they're accurate, and they're the Master Builder is in print, and so is the Mandrake. The Threepenny Opera is kind of illegal. I didn't understand when I began that it is still in copyright, if you know what that means, and it really is not just owned by the Brecht estate, the author of the Three Penny Opera, but by the estate of the composer. Don't get bored. By the estate of the composer with whom he wrote that piece, and these two estates hate each other. So it's very complicated. But if you want to do the Three Penny Opera in my translation, you have to get in touch with me personally.
Thank you.
You'll be at his table. Thank you, boss. And my apologies to everyone in line, but I'm afraid this young lady will have to be our final question. I do apologize, we are at time. Here you go, you get a consolation prize.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. I feel like the pressure's on. I recently saw you made a guest appearance in Law & Order SVU, which is my favorite show, and you're in my favorite movie, The Princess Bride, so I just wanted to know what it was like working on SVU for an episode.
Right. Well, I was on Law & Order SVU, Special Victims Unit. It was a thrill by the end. It was terrifying to do because I am not usually asked to play semi-realistic human beings. I have played, people have recognized from an early time when I was an actor, he's not quite a real person. We can put him in a sort of fairy tale, or he can play a monster, a dinosaur, but I'm not often called upon to play a realistic human being, much less in a very dramatic, unbelievably dramatic role where I'm supposed to cry and it was like when I saw the script, it was one of those situations where I happened to be very, very busy, and they sent me the script. I barely had time to read it. My agent said, "You have to do this, it's great." When I finally, after accepting it, really sat down and read it seriously, I freaked out and sort of said, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. It's crazy, and I'm sobbing and crying over the death of my brother, and how am I going to, that's not the stuff that I normally do. I'm usually a monster or a character in a fairy tale. This is, I don't know, I'm going to fail miserably. And I think they carried me through it because of their own, this Mariska Hargitay is the most incredibly enthusiastic and warm human being. It was as if she just picked me up and carried me through the whole thing. The director was equally kind and generous, and I sort of came in and I said, well, I'll do my best, I don't know. And they just grabbed me, and it all happened fast, you know, they do the whole thing in 5 days or something like that, and you know, maybe 6, and then I played the brother of Judd Hirsch, an amazing actor who I met 35 years earlier in the TV show Taxi. And I don't know, everybody just, and he's played every kind of part and can do absolutely anything. So they just sort of, I was running on everybody else's enthusiasm, and that is kind of one of the most enjoyable parts of acting, that, you know, you do grab the energy from the other people. And, you know, you respond to them. They're crying, so you burst into tears rather easily. You know, it's so, yeah, it was amazing. And by the end, I was in ecstasy. And I felt, oh, I can actually do this. So.
His red one matches his dress. Okay. Before we go, is there any projects coming up that you can share with us?
Well, I'm going to be, Disney is starting a new channel, and I'm going to be in something called, well, actually, I don't know what it's going to be called. It's either going to be called Airborne or Timmy Failure, based on a group of children's books called Timmy Failure, and I play a cruel school teacher. I guess I'm the enemy. And I'm still doing Young Sheldon, and they're still haven't fired me. So,
And by summertime, we'll hear you again in Toy Story 4.
Oh yes.
Thank you so much for this. Planet Comic Con 2019, Mr. Wallace Shawn.